Call the February 21st meeting to order and welcome everyone who's here in person and those watching on YouTube at home. Thank you for joining us. As customary, we open with prayer and the pledge, and I've asked Commissioner Harris to lead us in prayer and Commissioner Tony Braswell to lead us in the pledge. So,
let's stand. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we pause this evening to thank you for the amazing and wonderful blessings that you bring to each one of us. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here this evening to conduct the business of this wonderful county that we call home. Father, we ask that you watch over us and give us strength and wisdom and understanding and perseverance to do the right things. Father, we pray for our citizens. We pray for those who protect and serve our citizens, Father. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. It's a blessing to live in the land of the free, so let's express that tonight. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seated. The first item on the agenda is approval and discussion of the agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda as written.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Second item is the consent agenda items. We have three at this meeting. We have approval of our January 18th meetings. We have budget revisions for the library, soil and water conservation, and tourism. And we also have an appointment to our Board of Health. So with those are the three, I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, that brings us to the state of the county address. We have made a little bit of a change this year from our customary of the chairman sitting here and reading a report. I thought that, and not only that, I thought took the suggestion from staff that we may try something different this year. So we've got a video this year, and Adam, if you would, we're going to do that so you can watch it, and then I'll make a few comments at the end. Hello, Johnston County residents, businesses, and everyone else that calls Johnston County home. I'm Butch Lauder, Chairman of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners, and I'd like to thank you for joining me for the annual State of the County Address. Johnston County continues to position itself as a leader in our region through tremendous economic growth, a continued investment in infrastructure, and diligently planning for the future, and a historic dedication to provide responsive and innovative services to every resident of the county. The biggest challenge we faced head-on this year was continued impacts of COVID-19. The Johnston County Public Health Department played a vital role in helping make vaccines and testing available to every resident in the county, and we thank them for their hard work, dedication, and for being a guiding light throughout the pandemic. The county made a substantial investment in public safety in 2020 with the groundbreaking of the new Johnston County Detention Center. Today, we're only a few months away from that state-of-the-art facility becoming fully operational. In December, crews broke ground on Phase 2 of the project, which is the long overdue public safety center that will house the Sheriff's Department, emergency services, and 911 communications. The latest census numbers proved what most of us already knew, that Johnston County is a very desirable place to live, work, and to play. We continue to see steady shared growth occurring across our county. Some of the highlights include the construction of a new Amazon distribution facility in Smithfield, Advanced Text and Copper District's major investment near Clayton, Eastfield and Selma, Berry Global's production facility expansion in Benson, and Bartlett Millings expanding its operations in Wilson Mills. For over 200 years, our historic agricultural industry has been a leader in the state and the backbone of our local economy. With a shift in some agricultural business models to accommodate tourism, our agricultural economy continues to thrive. To continue fostering sustained growth in Johnston County, we must be diligent in planning and preparing for the future.
Infrastructure is the title we put on this one.
After 4 steering committee meetings and nearly 2,500 online survey responses, the development of a new comprehensive land use plan is well underway. The plan will help guide the growth and development of our community for years to come. The comprehensive land use plan will be finalized later this year. An even broader roadmap for the county is on the horizon with county officials beginning discussions for a strategic plan that will set priorities and focus on county and education facilities, infrastructure including broadband, parks and greenways, open space preservation, and overall growth. Infrastructure planning will always be at the top of the county's priority list. A crucial countywide water and wastewater study will start soon. This comes on the heels of a new water agreement with the city of Raleigh and for bid approval for the construction of a new wastewater treatment plant in the county. In September, county commissioners agreed to partially fund an extension of a natural gas line close to the Four Oaks Business Park. This extension will also increase the opportunity for commercial development along the I-95 corridor.
I just want to say thank y'all for your hard work and dedication. That's really, really impressive.
To better serve the public and local media, the Board of Commissioners enhanced the production quality of their live stream board meetings and made them easier to access on the county's YouTube channel, youtube.com/jocogovnc. A new space needs study for the county offices and facilities is underway, and the approval of $5.5 million in general fund allocations for municipal infrastructure projects has been approved. The Parks, Greenways, and Open Space Office continues to be a trailblazer, literally and figuratively. They're currently working with the county planners and Upper Coastal Plain RPO on a feasibility study on the Mountains to Sea Trail and the East Coast Greenway to determine the optimum route through the county. The office hopes to soon have a master plan for a two-site county park complex in Cleveland that would become a cornerstone for recreation in that area for years to come. These are just a few of the many accomplishments and achievements we've seen in 2021. I want to thank our residents for their continued support. I want to thank the Board of Commissioners for their service and dedication to the county. None of this success would be possible without the hard work of our outstanding team of county employees as they continue providing quality service to everyone who calls Johnston County home. Thank you, and God bless.
First, I'd like to say thank you to Adam Carroll and Ben Armstrong for the tremendous amount of work they put in and pulling this thing together and doing such a great job. So thank you guys for that. The other thing I hope that people picked up on in that video message was the fact that the amount of planning that we're doing to prepare for the growth that's here and to the growth that's still to come to go, so that this board is not a passive board. We're not sitting back and waiting to react. We're trying to be on the front end and be prepared for growth as much as possible. So I hope that's the message that people take away, that this board is indeed looking to actively plan for the future of this county. So with that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comments. First up, we have our Emergency Services Director, Kevin Hubbard, to introduce the new calendar. Here we go. We don't have Kevin.
Hey there, I'll have to do tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh Holloman, Deputy Director, Emergency Services. And I appreciate you allowing us to have just a few minutes tonight. Have with me are a couple from our emergency management team, our emergency management coordinator, Sandy Wood, as well as Logan Penny. And before I hand it over to Sandy, I just want to say on the theme of planning and preparedness, that's a big part of what we do in our office, and especially in emergency management. And this team behind me is always being creative and coming up with innovative ways to get that message out to our citizens. And I want to really commend them for what they have to show you tonight. We think it's a fun and creative way to get very important messages out and to make sure that people in our county are prepared for when that emergency or that disaster strikes. So thank you very much for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Emergency Management Coordinator Sandy Wood.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here. I think you probably have a copy of our calendars there. And if you open the front, this year we featured our municipalities. We wanted to bring each one of those in there. You go through the calendar, you'll see each one of those represented. On the front, we have messaging. This is a collaborative effort between our EMS, our fire, and emergency management. So in the front, you'll see how our citizens can see JOCO alerts, how to sign up for EMS subscriptions, and reminding everyone to prominently have their house numbers displayed on their businesses or their homes. In doing this, we partnered with various agencies throughout the county, our community and senior services, our veterans, our towns, our health department in trying to reach a very wide and broad audience and a very diverse audience so that we could get the preparedness information out to just as many people as we possibly could. The person with me, emergency services is always having ideas, all of our divisions, on how we can share our messages. And so the person with me is Logan Penny. Logan is our social media coordinator, and he's the one who pulls all these ideas together and makes them come together and makes the magic happen. So I want to introduce to you Logan Penny.
Hey, y'all. And like Miss Sandy said, we really wanted to highlight the different towns in the county. So in our last year's calendar, we had a different theme for every month, and we keep the same thing on this year. We decided to kind of highlight the different areas of the county by picking different parts and locations and like places that people know, and then pairing them with that message so that we could have something a little bit more personal to our county that people could then gravitate to and really like to look at. And we also are trying to integrate some of this stuff into our website right now. So on our website, we're working on making the seasonal preparedness section where all these images can be found there, and a bunch of other more in-depth information about how you can be prepared will be put up too for each of those months. So thank you guys, and I hope y'all enjoy them.
Great job.
Thank you. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is public comment, and I read a statement so those of you wishing to get up and speak will kind of know the ground rules for us. But any audience member that wishes to address the board on an item not already on the agenda may come forward at this time. Please state your name and a general location, town or township of residence. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board and shall at all times maintain proper decorum and make comments in a civil manner. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. Public comment is a listening opportunity for the board to hear the thoughts and concerns of the public and is not intended for the board to respond or answer any impromptu questions. So with that, if there's anyone wishing to speak, please come forward and state your name and general location. Mr. Taylor, good to have you back in attendance.
It's so easy to watch you on the internet, but it's not a two-way yet, so we're going to have a tax increase. I see you're now printing this in color. Probably no different in cost these days. I wanted to address the board with concern about ammonium nitrate. As you may well know, ammonium nitrate has been responsible for 2 of the 3 worst accidental explosions in history. The most recent one being in Beirut, Lebanon, a year and a half ago. We came close in Winston-Salem about 3 weeks ago. Ammonium nitrate is a fertilizer. Fertilizer is used for agriculture. According to the nice glossy poster at the end of the hall, number 4 county in North Carolina for agriculture is Johnston County. I would assume we probably have some ammonium nitrate in this county. And I would like to ask the board to consult with emergency services, make sure that we've got the necessary plans in place. Everything I watched and read about the Winston-Salem event, I got the impression they were just winging it. And I think we need to do better. You know, where, if anywhere, we have large quantities of this material, what's within the danger area? Do we have high population things, a school, for example, or a daycare? Do we have facilities that are low mobility people, like a nursing home, hospital? Nursing home was blown up in West Texas when the West Fertilizer Company had a fire and explosion back in 2013. So just want you to be happy that we're ready should something happen. Second item, it made the news recently that if you put a file on Google Drive with just the letter A or the digit 0, Google will flag that as a copyright infringement and not allow you to share that file with others. I know the county went to Google Suite and Google Drive for county business, what, a year and a half ago maybe? Time flies when you're in a pandemic. I would like you to have technical services look at our contract with Google and see if they're obviously scanning these files in order to make their determination that they're copyright infringing. Often at the end of the meeting, somebody will recite the little mantra to go into closed session for attorney-client privilege. If the county attorney's office is using Google Drive, storing sensitive documents up there, it's Google scanning. If the health department is putting data up there, that could be HIPAA protected data that Google should not have their nose in. So just another item for your to-do list. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Hodges, good to have you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Timothy Hodges. I live 347 Sophomore Street, Clayton, North Carolina. Glad y'all didn't have to remind me of that this time. As y'all know, I've attended quite a few meetings in the past, and I have usually come in to pick up an agenda and would like to pick it up an encyclopedia. So I'm aware of y'all being very busy. I know that y'all have given some consideration of the requests I made in the past about changing the process. I also know that any thought of that is going to take some time. The process in itself is going to take some time. I do understand that, and I hope my fellow citizens understand that too. But you know, I felt like for our sake, we might need to stand up and remind, you know, the board that we still hope y'all consider looking at changing that process. And that's pretty much all I have to say. But I was curious though, and I don't know if y'all can answer that or need to answer or what, you know. But I was just thinking about Ms. Cookie Pope. You know, she served in the past. I was just curious, you know, was she only female that ever, only lady that ever served on the board or not? I'm just curious. You know, I know y'all ain't have to consider that, but it's just a thought. You know, I was thinking about was she's the only female that ever served on our Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gracie Wells Chambly. I'm a resident of Johnston County. I live in Clayton. I've been in that area this area, I should say, for 32 years. I ran for county commissioner in 2018, and as I look at this board, I just want to thank Mr. Hodges for keep reminding you that this board should represent all the residents of Johnston County, the way that it looks, the way that it's composed. So please take his request seriously. He has requested that the board review the way that the composition of the board is made, and unfortunately we had a mix-up. We thought that it was President's Day and many businesses are closed, so we were thinking that this body would not meet. But I'm a past candidate and a future candidate, and I would like the opportunity to win next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chamley. Anyone else? All right. Madam Clerk, do we have any emails? No emails? All right. Next item on the agenda is approval of a grant application, and Mr. Chris Johnston, our Economic Development Director, is here to speak to that. Good evening, sir.
The Wells family or Matt Zapp or anyone's here tonight, but on behalf of the Johnston County Economic Development Office, it was brought to our attention by the owners and operators of Glot Motorsport of a potential grant directly through the Department of Commerce. This is something that is not county funds. There's no clawback. It's just if they met the criteria set forth by the Department of Commerce, there was allocation funds sent from the federal government to the Department of Commerce. They're just looking for a local government as an entity to receive those funds and then pass it to the motorsports facility. As I may have mentioned before, the motorsports obviously has a very strong lobbying arm and was able to receive these funds from the federal government to assist the track and obviously other tracks across the state of North Carolina. Again, this is something that is no risk to the taxpayers of Johnston County as far as a clawback. As long as they meet the criteria set forth by the Department of Commerce when the application is made, at that termination, then the check will be released. So it's one of those things, if Commerce validates everything that Gilad has mentioned, meaning their loss of revenue in the year of 2020 and 2021, and meet the criteria there, then those funds will be released. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir.
I'm ready to make a motion. I move that we approve the application as presented.
Is there a second? Second. All right, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you very
Motion
much.
carries.
Excuse
Thank you,
me,
sir.
Chris, I do have one question. What's the timing on this? When do you think is realistic when this will unfold?
Well, the application is due by the 26th, the end of this month.
Okay.
And so obviously, I'm thinking probably a 60-day turnaround. There will be a needed amendment, obviously, in the county budget when the funds are received, just to show that the funds were received from Commerce and that they'll go out directly to the lot.
In and out.
So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next item on the agenda is our Parks, Greenways, and Open Space Coordinator, Adrian O'Neill, to talk about a grant opportunity. Good evening, Mr. O'Neill.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I wanted to bring to you tonight a opportunity through one of our partners we've used in the past, the Upper Coastal Plain Rural Planning Organization. And it's an opportunity for another grant, $150,000. We would be responsible for matching $7,500 of it. And we'd like to apply for this to use it for a countywide comprehensive trails and greenways plan. You might remember we've just kind of started working on a plan to connect Clayton to Smithfield. And this one would be a little bit different. The one Clayton to Smithfield, when we get done with that, we'll have targets on the ground, and it'll be very precise. This one will be not quite as precise, but it'll give us pathways throughout the county that we can look at in the future for trails, and we'll also show DOT that we want trails there in order for them to consider them when they're redoing roads and things like that. It's a SPR grant, which is a state planning and research grant through DOT. As I said, the project will identify routes to connect existing trails, state trails, schools, nature trails, parks, and commerce. And it will also align with the surrounding county trails. So where a county trail comes in from another county, we'll be able to align with it and hopefully connect with their commerce system as well. The other things it will do is solidify tech standards for trails and greenways. So if somebody's building a development and they decide they want to put their own trails in, it'll have the baseline for those trails. So we don't have any misunderstandings. Also, it's going to identify potential funding sources and variable acquisition approaches that we can use. We already have support from at least 3 of our partners, being the state parks, East Coast Greenway, and Triangle Trails Initiative. So we're well on the way to having the support we need. And I feel like it's a good opportunity for us to get this plan in place so that we've got a green print for our future in Johnston County. So.
All right. Any questions, Mr. O'Neill?
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This, as I understand it, this 120,000, or I guess it's going to be 150 total. It's going to can be used anywhere in the greenway system. It's not a specific area, whereas the Clayton to Smithfield is a specific area. So
Correct. And the Clayton to Smithfield was two specific trails. It was East Coast Greenway and Mountains of Sea Trail, which will eventually travel all the way through our county. They do right now, but they're on roads, and none of us really want to be walking on the road in Johnston County much. So we're trying to get them off the roads, have a safe path, and state trails have to be separated from traffic. It cannot be considered a state trail as long as it's on the road. So state parks cannot adopt the Mountains of Sea Trail or the East Coast Greenway as long as they are right beside the road. There's got to be some kind of separation or some kind of barrier to make them state trail eligible.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Adrian, are you requesting the 30,000? I know that.
In the, let me explain that.
I need to know what, if other funding is not secured.
In the write-up, we thought it was going to be 30,000 max to the 150. In talking to James Salmon with Upper Coastal Plain RPO, he had gotten that wrong when we first talked about it, and he came back and said it would be 7,500, just like the one we just did.
Okay.
So it'd be a whole lot less than that 30,000. And we'll still go after other funding sources for that 7,500. I just want y'all to know that would be worst case scenario.
If it's approved, Adrian, what would be the turnaround time?
That's a good question. This last one was not a good measure because we were right in the middle of COVID and it took forever to get this last one approved. But I think that we'll have approval by the end of 2022, and then they'll turn around and want it to be complete by July of 2023.
Right. Standard.
Yeah.
So I did have a question. I want to make sure if I understood correctly. So if we're looking at highway improvement projects, say, let's just say 701 crossing 95, if they were to put a bridge there, we would have an opportunity on the front end through, whether that's Campo, and I know not that specific spot, or the Upper Coastal Plain RPO, to get a locally administered project or something with the DOT to be part, maybe not the lap project, but we'll have a chance to be on the front end of that, planning for it somewhere down the road when this study's.
If we've got it in this plan, the way I understand it is they have to consider it when they redo that road. It's part of the Complete Streets program.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I have moved to approve the submittal of the grant application and for the matching funds to come from the open space funds if they cannot be secured from other sources.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, just real quickly, I was able to attend, and I don't want to steal the chairman's thunder because I know he may want to speak about this, but the event that you had, it's really exciting to see that much enthusiasm in the county of the people that they're so excited about the open space and the greenways and the parks and all the things that you're working on and the board is working on, the county's working. It's really a great day, and I'm so excited to see it. And that was a great turnout for the event, and just looking forward to many great things to come as a result. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up on the agenda is an update on our comprehensive land use plan update, an update on the update. So Braxton Meg said you can come forward and jump right into the presentation. Yeah.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to address the board again tonight. Ben Hitchings is with me this evening as well. Yes, please. Thank you. So we'd like to keep the presentation brief, but this is a very important step or a point in the process of developing the comprehensive plan, and great to get input from all of you. So we'll give you a bit of an update and hopefully have a little discussion about some of the things that you're seeing that we will be taking to our public forums this week, Wednesday and Thursday evening, and we'll touch on the locations and timing of those. So a little bit about the schedule. This is the same one you've seen all along. When we started this process, we told you that when we get underway, it still roughly takes about a year, and so we're still targeting May for a draft of the plan before it goes through an adoption process. we'd like to break it down to a much simpler look at how things unfold through this process so we can talk about where we are. So if you look at this diagram, you just see a few boxes with some icons representing those stages of the process. We have come through a few of those, and we are at that middle point where you see that map icon of creating that vision for the future of Johnston County. So I will come back to that. We've been using that as a way of guiding the steering committee and thinking about what their role is in the process, all the different things that we have asked of them, and this ties some of the responsibilities that we have laid out for them to those milestones. We have also talked with them on a few occasions about what their role is relative to the planning board and to this board. And so they are giving us important feedback throughout the process. We are relying on them to take this input with us that we're getting through the process and look at it and help clarify for us what we are hearing through the process. They are not making decisions. That's the responsibility of this board. The planning board does make those recommendations, and this board gets to have final say in this plan. So we would just want to make sure that you knew that we were reinforcing that at the opening of every meeting with the steering committee, and they have been active participants in a tremendous, as I said last time, a tremendous committee. Very effective so far through this process. Again, looking at these pieces and parts of the process, we have gone through that discovery phase. In fact, we continue to talk at our meetings about the kinds of things that the county's facing, both challenges and opportunities, and take those into consideration. We have heard a lot through the process, and that is what has helped formulate the goals that have already been shared with the community and with the steering committee. It has gotten us to this point in the process where we are crafting that vision. And usually people think of that map that is coming forward and will be an initial draft of that will be presented at the forums this week. We wanted to stress this because this is a really important step in the process of getting that vision in place. It is absolutely supported by the policy recommendations and strategies that will come soon after, and that will be, those two together will be the basis for the plan that will ultimately get adopted later on. But one of you made a reference to cake baking as an analogy for how we're going through this process, and we thought it was a good one because it really is true. We're at that point where we're making some decisions based on what we know about why we're doing what we're doing, what we see as the opportunities going forward. So we really are at that stage of selecting the ingredients. What's going to go into this thing, make sure we've got all the right ingredients, and everything else we're deciding about that before it gets baked. And this is the group that will make those decisions. So you will be tasting that batter, so to speak, as you said. And then we will support all of that with the recommendations, the policies, and the strategies. And that's what will go into the draft plan. So it is a very methodical, step-by-step process. And trying not to put the cart before the horse, we want to make sure that this vision for the future of the county is what the county believes is the right thing to do for the future. So in crafting that vision, we use these goals as our guideposts. So as we think about that future land use and conservation pattern across the county, we're looking to these goals to inform much of what lands on that map to represent that vision. So this is an initial concept that you're seeing on this, and this is the same information you received a couple weeks ago. So as you look at this map, you see several colors here representing different types of places, different types of activities. And so it's answering the question, what are the possibilities for certain activities in the county and where should they be? So do you need a map? No, you don't have to have a map. The policies should be able to stand on their own. Should you want a map? Yes, because it actually helps with the conversation about which direction the county is going in and why. And it's really, truly a graphic depiction of the policies that you're choosing. And if that's the case, then it's depicting that potential future if resources are allocated wisely and the plan is implemented. So as you hear more through this process about what your community would like to see 20 years from now, it's giving that guidance to inform a wide range of decisions. So a little bit about the information that you received a couple weeks ago. Those colors are representing different types of place types, everything from open space to employment centers and industrial areas and everything in between. So they have different character, different scale, different purposes, and so on. So as we put those across the map, we're looking for ways to achieve some of the goals that have been stated, and many of them have a physical component to them. So at this point, I might put Chairman Lauder on the spot, but we'd love to learn from all of you, starting with you. As you look at that map, if you've had time to digest it and think about that pattern of development and conservation across Johnston County and think about the goals, we would also ask each of you to think about the things that are priorities for you for this county. What's something that is so important as you think about the future of the county, and then you look to this map, do you see details here that align with getting the county closer to what that primary objective is that you have in mind? So those are some of the things that are in play for us at this point in the process, and it's the sort of thing that we are asking the folks who will be coming out to the forum and asking through the survey, if they don't attend the forum, to share with us their thoughts on that. Mr. Hitchings, would you like to add anything to what I'm saying? Okay. So we would welcome any thoughts about this tonight or after, as you look at this and see what kinds of things surface on the map for you that advance some of the things that you think are important for the future of the county.
Mr. Chairman, I've got to have a
Yeah, I was
comment.
going to say, go ahead.
When I saw the map, when Braston presented it to us a couple of weeks ago, I was encouraged about it. It's got a lot of good things about it. One concern I have, and I don't know if there's an answer for it, new people moving in, whenever we do get to the final product, coming in, they're going to see what we've got and where it's at. But when it overlays people that have been here for generations and restricts what they might do or might not do, again, I don't know the answer to that. That's part of this growing pains, I guess. But that would be a concern of mine.
Right. And the natural inclination is to look at it and think about, is this really our zoning map? And no, it's not. It is what I said before, of just a graphic depiction of what we're hearing in the way of preferences. So I think you're absolutely right. The interpretation of the map is critical. And we can also, the map can go away and the policies just stand on their own. So what's the message the map is carrying? It's a first draft that we're going to march out through these public forums to get those reactions, and we fully expect that feedback from anybody and everybody who looks at this will have something specific as they look at the whole map, or even just one little piece of the map. So it is described as a land use and conservation map because we have heard, and Ben can comment on some of the wide-ranging comments we've received through the survey that align with what we were hearing at some of the community meetings. People love Johnston County for a wide, for many reasons, but the natural assets, the environment here, and the heritage of agriculture here, and everything that makes the county green. Those are among the things that people love about Johnston County. And so we call it a land use and conservation map, knowing that those are the types of things that are among the assets that people would like to see that are tied to this county's identity. So there's some thought about conserving what makes Johnston County, but also welcoming some of the changes that people are saying they expect to see in the county in the future.
So I did have to make sure I understand. So the responses to the survey are in here, but is this the committee that came together and formed this map, or?
So this map was taken to the steering committee for vetting to look at that, and let them know that's what's going to the community meetings. And so looking at this, again, it's a first draft, so we expect not just feedback on the map, but the place types as they're described. Maybe there are some that are missing. Maybe there are some that some people think are not appropriate for the county. But we're also asking people to look at the policy ideas. They're not etched in stone yet. They're policy ideas that we're putting out there to say, if this is something that is in keeping with what you expect for the future of the county, this is how it might play out on the landscape over time. So, we think that is not the final version of the map. It's with that feedback that we can refine it and make those improvements. So we'll be asking that at the public forum.
Any other comments?
What I see here is the age-old question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? And I think we can use that illustration is to the fact that we are where we are because of the growth, and we provided a lot of amenities. We are where we are in regard to some issues in regard to traffic, especially in the western part, and other things. So, I hope we're not anti-growth, and I hope we're not anti-not growth. I think certainly I believe that Johnston County it has expanded and became what it is because it gave the opportunity for additional restaurants, additional avenues, and whatever. So I hope the final product that we get is something that we will be able to work with, and we've sort of met in the middle somewhere.
Right, right. And, when change comes, people get a little taste of what comes with the growth, right? They see things that they respond positively, and they see things that they don't respond positively to. But it's enough for people to be able to be thoughtful about, well, what do we want from this day forward? And so that's what we hope the plan will do. We think it's important for people to recognize that a plan sets you on the path that you want to go on. Those changes won't happen overnight, but it will certainly help this body prioritize things in the future so that you can get closer to what that vision is.
The only thing that, having, as I look around, I'm both not quite, maybe the oldest person here and the oldest serving. And I think what the Board of Commissioners really have wanted in the past is something they can hang their hat on. And rather than trying to redefine gray areas in areas that are not there, because we have the obligation of making decisions based on this product, and which is going to be presented to us.
To add to what Ms. Nealon just shared, we know that in local government, we're working in a multi-objective environment. We're not just trying to do one thing. We're trying to do lots of things. We're trying to promote job growth. We're trying to support our longstanding businesses. We're trying to protect the character of our place. We're trying to give opportunities for folks who might come here. So we understand that, and that's that. When we mix that batter in the cake, we're taking all those different objectives, and those are captured in the goals too. You can see the diversity of things that we understand that folks in your position are trying to accomplish. So as a result, it naturally becomes a blend, and we're looking for that balance so that we find that place where we're not just one thing or the other. We're allowing you to pursue those multiple objectives.
Yeah, I would just say that we've had 20 years or so to learn. I think there's probably some don'ts that we don't want to repeat again. And I think the challenge is to keep the ones that were successes and then plan for the future and with leaving some of the lessons learned out. But there's a lot of opportunity and challenges here to improve upon the growth from the last 20 years. And as you mentioned, preservation of land is anytime you get 75% of people saying the same thing is pretty impressive. So I think that's something that we've got to consider, and at the same time, know that there are more people coming, and how do we do that in the best way and make that best the best tasting cake that we can make at the end of the day. So
I think one of the things that I have struggled with and still continue to, and I hope that when we finally get this cake baked, that I'll have a better feel about it. But one of the things that really bothers me is that, I love the open spaces in Johnston County. I mean, we all do. I mean, it's fantastic. And if Mr. Hester there owns 100 acres of woods, and I drive by that every day on my way home from work, I love it. It's beautiful, the wildlife, all that stuff. But if Mr. Hester wants to develop his land, that's where I struggle. That how much restrictive government overreach do we need to have to say that he can't do anything with his land except leave it that open space. And so I think that's where I always struggle with what's the right answer to that, because I'm not in favor of too many regulations and too much overreach and too much telling people what they can and can't do with their property. But yet we all want to preserve those spaces as much as we possibly can. I think that's another reason to, the parks and recreation and the areas that we're looking at now, to conserve that land as much as possible. But I still struggle with overreaching someone who has owned a piece of property for 100 years and they want to do something with it specific, and then as a government, who am I to tell them they can't?
Right. So I think those are the kinds of concerns that we hear, especially in a fast-growing area. And we hear that all the time. And, it's in North Carolina, because our land use plans are policy guides as opposed to being regulatory, they don't have the teeth. It's actually, I think they're more effective tools, because it's something that helps with a thoughtful process when you're making decisions about capital investments or you're making decisions about a rezoning application and a whole host of other things. So those are the kinds of things that, as Ben said, it's a balance. So you're finding all those things that when it comes out in the plan, those policies are looking for ways to achieve some of the things that are important for the county, whether it's conservation of one thing or the promotion of another, like job growth, and finding that happy medium. So you're creating path forward for a lot of the things that the county wants, but you're also making sure that all of your investments align, your decision-making aligns, so that the growth goes where the community as a whole would like it to go. Take pressure off of some of the areas that really want to be the conservation areas, right?
Any other questions or comments before we move on to the next portion?
Okay.
All right.
All right. So we will be hosting these public forums Wednesday night, both at 6 o'clock. Wednesday night will be at Johnston Community College, and Thursday will be at the Clayton Center. They are an open house format. The questions you see on the right are the gist of the questions that we will be asking. We do have those questions that we'd really like to pull out people as they pass through the space and look at the exhibits, but we are also recreating that in the form of a survey online, so folks who do not attend in person can actually have a similar experience, and we can get feedback as we have. It is going to be set up in such a way that we're going to try to keep people spaced out, so if they have any discomfort given our issues with COVID, they can stay far away from other attendees, hopefully, but also still receive a lot of the information that they need. We're happy to answer any questions about that setup. And then as far as the community input goes, we will have that information as a deliverable in this process, and we will continue to build what we're calling a community input summary. On Wednesday, we will have a compilation of that information with the key findings, some summary data that we will share. But that's the type of document that we will have on hand, and it will grow over time, so it becomes probably a piece of your appendices in the final plan. So that kind of information is, we probably are up to about 400 pages now of information that is received so far. So that will be available to you starting on Wednesday to peruse that and see some of the input that we are also seeing. The mechanisms we've been using, of course, we've had 5 steering committee meetings so far, and they have been very productive. We spoke with board members at the beginning of the process, and we'll continue to do that. Our Forum 1, we had several attendees, but that was complemented by a second survey. The first survey was a general survey. The second survey, like the third survey, will complement the meeting. The surveys that we've had so far have generated just over 2,400 responses, and we also had a mapping exercise where people could tell us exactly what they thought about different areas of the county, and we had 301 distinct replies there. So kind of gives you a little glimpse into what that summary is going to cover. But with that, I hope that we will see some of you at the forum on Wednesday night and Thursday night, and happy to answer any questions about the forum. And just know that this is the point in the process where we will be taking this map and those policy ideas out to the public to get feedback and use that refine the information we'll bring forward next time. Did I leave anything out? Is there anything?
So I'll start with a couple of questions. One is roughly 10% of the population. Is that a poor, good, better than average response? Where are we falling in?
It's the most I've seen in a county plan, so I think it's strong. Have you seen higher numbers?
Good.
10% or 1%?
Oh, 1%, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for the math there.
That's the banker in it.
The key, though, is giving multiple opportunities for folks in different formats. So some folks may really appreciate having an online option. Others love to come and do an actual workshop and talk face-to-face. So as you can see from the different strategies we've used, we are trying to provide that diversity of opportunities and mix up the location a little bit too with the two meetings.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to interrupt you, but my question has to do right with what you were talking about. And perhaps this is an odd time to ask this, but in your business, you do this all the time. This online survey with over 2,400 respondents, do you find that indicative of the cross-section of the county? I mean, are all these people who look at PBS only, or are they NASCAR fans? You know what I'm getting at? I mean, do you tend to get a certain type of response all the time?
So I'm going to piggyback on his piggyback. So what I was going to shoot for is there a map, and I think I've asked about this before, showing general locations of where the response is. They're all in one area. I don't know if we know NASCAR fans or not, but at least something along those lines so we can get a better feel for it. And that if you got 400 pages of stuff, maybe it's in there somewhere. But I would like to kind of get a feel for who are we seeing responding.
So there are two things, as Ben was saying, appealing to the different preferences of people, which have shifted with the pandemic. Now that people know that they can do these things, they're choosing that option and appreciating the convenience. So we're seeing more people expecting that. We still hold the in-person option because there are so many people who still would prefer to show up in person and talk to a real human being. So we think that it's the same is true for the survey as for the attendees. You're going to get the people who are really interested in this thing showing up and answering. One thing we did check at the beginning of the first survey was the makeup of the folks answering, their age groups and gender, I believe. And town. Where they live. Well, not yet, where they work. And so so we were looking at that and compared that to the demographic data that we had actually collected and saw similarities. And we had a slide about that a couple meetings ago about showing that comparison, and they were pretty much spot on. So from that standpoint, they were. The mapping question, there are tools out there that were not part of this. We are using a simplified survey method with this online survey. It does by default have the IP addresses of everybody who answered. So we can take that data out of this survey and with a third party map it. That particular survey company will not do that for us. They prefer to get the consent of the respondents to be able to map that. So it's an extra few steps to go to have that done. It's technically possible, but outside of that, the realm of that particular survey company.
Got a couple of things to add that Ms. Nealon touched on. One, we did have a question about are you a county resident or not, or do you work in the county? And like 95% of the respondents are county residents.
Right.
And as Ms. Nealon mentioned, we asked where do you work in the county? And there's a pretty good distribution across the different communities. So whether or not folks live all across the county, they certainly, the information we have suggests that they have a familiarity with the different parts of the county. And now for our next survey. Yeah, do you want to say?
So the first question on the next survey is where do you live? So we're looking at that question in a couple of different ways. I mean, we've grown up looking at maps, so we're familiar with them, but most people struggle with identifying exactly where they are. And some folks will tell you that they live in a town and they're in the unincorporated portions of the county. So we're looking at that question to make sure we can help people tell us where they are so that we at least have that piece of data, and even if it's not mapped, we have that distribution.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. When you say you live in Clayton, and you live at 4042, but you have a Clayton mailing address, I can see
That's
that.
right.
I'm familiar with that confusion. The one thing I would like to say is the last meeting, I really enjoyed the format of the last meeting with the committee and discussion, and also the fact that it was live streamed so that we could watch it. So I hope there's at least one more of those, but that was very interesting discussion to see the discussion of the committee. So any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I think my concern is, I think basically what y'all have, we've always been accused of having two completely economic districts in this county. And what we don't want to do is favor one with a policy that would shine a bad light on the other or cause undue hardship for the other. So we're going to have to, I think that is a very important thing. We know where these respondents are. I think to know what part of the county, if we get a large concentration from one given area and we base our facts on that, then we're pretty well representing one area and not representing the whole county. So I think when we look at it, we need to be real careful of knowing the demographics of where those people are.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. We've talked about it up here. We're a tale of two counties, roughly split by 95. So I would agree to make sure that we don't have one side or the other that has disproportionate weight in the survey. So, and then I guess the final piece, if there's not any other, is I look at like this as our public comment. When you've got these public meetings, that is an opportunity for the public to make their comments. We will have other public hearings where the commissioners will get to weigh in and present our discussion. So I know there's been some questions about commissioners being at these meetings to respond to the public, but I think these meetings are to listen and gather information, and again, there'll be public hearings down the road for us to have an opportunity to respond and present our thoughts on it.
And in fact, under state statute now, whenever a community develops and adopts a plan, it's got to follow the same process that y'all would use for a zoning text amendment. So the plan has to go to the planning board, and then the governing board has to have a public hearing, like you said, the more traditional public hearing. So all of that is mapped out and will be coming later in the process. And you're absolutely right. What we're doing right now is inviting folks across the county to come share their thoughts and for us to capture those.
All right. And I guess the final thing is thank you for the work that you're doing, but a special thanks to the folks on the committee who are taking their time away from their families to focus on the future of Johnston County. So a special thanks to those folks serving on the committee.
Thank you.
All right, next up on the agenda is an item for Ms. Farmer, our Utilities Director, a proposed budget change, our project budget.
Good evening. As you may recall, our Timothy G. Broom Water Treatment Plant currently has a treatment capacity of 14 million gallons a day, and our existing capital improvements plan includes a project to increase the treatment capacity at the plant. In order to evaluate the best delivery method for an expedited project, staff recommends working with an owner's advisor. An owner's advisor will take the role of providing project management, project administration, permitting management, delivery method selection, RFQ development, contract negotiations, funding application preparation, and a basis of design report for our project. We have completed a request for qualification process and negotiated with a consultant for the project. The proposed project budget is $225,000 for technical services, and we propose the revenue to be paid from our the expense to be paid from our revenue from water system development fees. We are recommending approval of the proposed capital project budget, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I have a question. I'm not familiar with this term, owner's advisor. Have we used those before?
We have not. We are evaluating for this project to strongly consider a design build type project under the new general statute. We've not completed a project in this manner under the current statute. It's relatively new. And this project, I believe this method will give us an expedited project and some options for better quality.
I'm good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Chandra, if we proceed with this, will they evaluate our treatment methods, equipment, everything, and see if we need to change the actual type of equipment we're using at the plant?
So it'll depend on what we want to put into the scope. One of those will be an evaluation of our treatment process. We do have some decisions to make as we determine how large we want to expand on the site in the future, if we want to continue with our current treatment process or if we want to look at other options. But they will be advising us in that manner on a preliminary level. Obviously, if we get into more detailed changes, we would probably have an amendment with them, but this would give us a preliminary overview.
They would also handle modifications to intake, position structures, whatever.
Right, so this firm would help us with that preliminary design, and then depending on where we go with that, if we go into a design-build project, that design-build team would handle the details of that.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Now, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the project budget for an owner's advisor.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, Ms. Farmer, you have another proposed budget for us.
Our wastewater treatment facilities currently have a permitted discharge of 13.5 million gallons a day, and we have construction permits for the two facilities that limits our discharge to 11.5 million gallons a day. Of course, as we prepare for future demands and we try to facilitate additional future treated effluent discharge, we will have to proceed with expanding that discharge permit. It's a very intensive process that it includes detailed environmental evaluations and approvals, water quality monitoring, evaluating engineering alternatives, seeking MPDES, and then, of course, we would end that with a modified MPDES discharge permit. We have completed a request for qualification process for a consultant for this as well. We have negotiated with the consultant, and the technical services proposed project budget is $550,000. We propose to fund this from our sewer system development fees fund, and we are requesting approval of the capital project budget in the $550,000 amount. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If we expanded this is something that's not going to happen overnight, I'm assuming. What's the time frame on it?
This could take 18 to 24 months. It's going to depend on how much water quality modeling that the state will require, what's accepted, and some of that is seasonal, so it may depend on what season we have to get into, but I would anticipate up to 24 months for this.
Do we have a goal, a point that we're trying to ask for in our permit?
We would like to ask for 24 million gallons a day.
All right. Currently at the plant, our largest problem is not treatment, based on conversations. Our problem is getting the waste to the plant to treat it. Is there anything figured? Are we working on that project anywhere? I mean, is there any type of study or whatever going on to see where our transmission shortfalls
That's all those projects are included in our
They're all
capital improvements
intertwined.
plan. So our capital improvements plan that the board has already approved and has most of those in there, and certainly we have a lot of those under construction now and or under design. So that takes into account getting flow to the new plant, and as we expand it over time, additional capacity to the new plant.
Okay.
And we plan to present an updated capital improvements plan to the board in March for your consideration. Hopefully, we will be able to review that with you, answer any questions, and get that approved by early May. So that will aid as we apply for funding applications on some of these projects, having that plan in place.
So we're working on both, but building the plant and also getting the flow to the plant.
That's right. We're building additional treatment capacity, and we're building additional transmission capacity. Of course, additional transmission capacity, the project changed once we had to change the destination we were taking it to. So when we moved our treatment location, and that certainly changed that capital plan several years ago. But it's well underway.
Well, we're eagerly awaiting that plan because there might be some funds out there we can qualify for.
All right. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And finally, not a budget this time, but a budget revision.
Right. As I mentioned, our capital improvements plan, our existing capital improvements plan, it includes a project at our existing wastewater treatment plant for grit removal and our full SCADA replacement. That's hardware and software for our SCADA system. The state approved these project components in our engineering report for our 210 wastewater treatment facility project. And you may recall, this is the project to build the new plant on County Home Road. It includes that component. It also includes our biosolids dewatering component and our effluent line to discharge from the new plant back to our existing discharge location. The other component of that was these upgrades at the existing plant. We've not included that in the existing project budget, so we are recommending to include that design, modify the existing project budget for this to include the design of those improvements. And you can see we have the existing project budget before you and the proposed. And the funds, we are recommending appropriating those right now from Fund 68, our fund, that's our sewer fund, fund balance. We would appropriate from that for now. And of course, this project would still remain, it would become part of this project with these other components that are already there. And it would be eligible for any additional clean water SRF funding that we may apply for, or any other ARPA funds that may be available where we're looking at applications at those through the state level. And we're requesting approval of the revised project budget and the revised capital project ordinance for this.
I mean, how many more SRF or funding cycles, period, ARPA included, are we anticipating would still be left that we may
So there's
see
one
some
in the
funds?
spring, there'll be one in May, and then there'll be another one in the fall round. We're told that they may change, the state may change the funding cap and the total, the maximum amount that you can be, that entity can be awarded. That may change in the fall, and if so, we may be eligible for additional.
Any questions, Ms. Farmer? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the revised project budget and the revised capital project ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we have our counsel, Jennifer Slusser, to present on the refund of excise tax.
Good morning. Morning. Feels like morning.
Where you been?
I've been here long enough, it's tomorrow morning. Good evening. I present to you refund request for excise tax in the amount of $839. It meets the standards of the statute. I do not see anyone here from the law firm that wishes to be heard, and I recommend approval of
Just
this
for
request.
curiosity, where should it have been recorded in?
Wake County.
Oh, okay, good. Mr. Chairman, I move we approve it.
All right. We have a motion and a second.
I got it. You got a second?
Yeah, we do. The other Commissioner Braswell.
The other Braswell.
The other Braswell. So any other discussion?
What's the over and under, how many more we're going to have this year?
Well, given that we have electronic recording, I would imagine you'll see me doing this every month.
All right. I think that's the end of discussion, so all in favor of the motion to approve?
Aye.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like it's unanimous, so thank you.
You don't really have a choice anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Next up is manager report and comments. Mr.
Thank you,
Hester.
Mr. Chairman, board members, good evening. We, Johnston County received an appropriation from the General Assembly's last budget of $290,000, but there was no specific project for it. And it was a very tight timeline to turn it around. So I spoke with Daniel Clifton, who manages our facilities and does a great job with all the buildings and grounds. I want to say thank you to Martha Laster for being here. She manages all the debt and many of the grants come through this county. So we had a quick turnaround. I just wanted to inform the board, and if there's no objections, we'd like to use that to replace 4 air handling units for this facility, as well as a cooling tower. We had to turn it around very quick, but I wanted to brief the board and make sure there was no problems with that. Mr. Clifton was going to have to be doing this anyway soon, I think. There he is. So if you have any specific questions about it, he can answer them much better than I can, but we would like to propose that if there's no objections.
Do we need a formal vote on it, or just?
I think you're fine. If there's no objections, we'll move forward. If there is, we'll.
He's not going to use the 747 engines like that in the courthouse, is he?
No.
Just replacing some 33-year-olds.
Okay.
All right.
That's
All right.
Hard to believe this particular wing is 33 years old.
It is hard to believe.
All right.
Thank
Well, I hear no objections, so proceed
Thank
on.
y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now I'll turn it over to board comments and reports, and Commissioner Brazel, I will begin with you.
I'm working on some stuff, but I don't have it finalized to make a presentation yet.
All right.
I got a couple things, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I sort of thinking through the process, when I asked Ms. Nealon about who was responding, were we getting a fair cross-section of the county, I really thought through that question. It's really people that are interested, which would be developers, builders, farmers, so all across the spectrum, people that are interested in land and using the land. So I guess it would have NASCAR fans as well as the PBS watchers. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and to answer Mr. Hodges' question, there's been 2 women that I know of serving on the Board of Commissioners. And I would urge anybody who wants to run for this office to think about what the voters of Johnston County have done over the recent years. We've got 7 people, we all happen to be men, we all happen to be white, but we all reflect a conservative approach to government. And I say if you want to get elected in Johnston County right now, you need to have a conservative approach to government. And that's the key. It's not your color, it's not your gender, it's that. And that's all I got to say.
All right. Vice Chair Harris?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right.
No, sir.
And Commissioner Smith?
I'm trying not to talk.
You're doing a good job. Commissioner Wood?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I got an announcement to make with sort of mixed emotions. I'd just like to inform the public and this board that as of February 28th, I plan on resigning. Reason being my residence is going to change counties. But first and foremost, I'd like to thank the residents of this county. I'd also like to thank staff for all the support and answering a lot of questions for me. And as far as this board, my peers, I'd like to thank y'all for the many memories, the many ways we've worked together to accomplish important stuff in this county. And it quite certainly has been my privilege. And I just say thank you.
Well, we thank you for your service. We're gonna miss you, but we thank you for your service. Any other?
I do.
Yes.
You know, Larry came from right out of the blue. I'd never heard tell of Larry Wood when he ran for office the first time and was elected. But I must say his heart's been in the right place. He's been interested in Johnston County and the citizens, especially the school system, and I think he's been a very good commissioner. I've enjoyed serving with him.
I'm going to miss him.
It has really been an honor to serve with you, and your passion and zealousness for the issues and your willingness to put in the effort to try to make the right decisions and do the right things for the people is inspiring, and we wish you the best. We will miss you.
Thank you.
My brief tenure with him has been very, I found him to be very, very dedicated to this county.
Thank you.
So we got another one to train.
That implies you finished training some of us.
And look at the bright side.
So with that, I think we have a need to go into a closed session. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I'm pinch hitting for my colleague who has laryngitis. We won't go into pros and cons of that right now, but I move that the board go into closed session for the purpose of consulting with an attorney employed by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 and to discuss the matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other business in the area pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of going into closed session, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We are now in closed.